There are moments in history when the world holds its breath, moments when the noise of chaos, conflict, and crisis suddenly gives way to silence. But make no mistake, that silence is louder than the bombs, more powerful than the speeches, more terrifying and more hopeful than anything else. Today, we stand in one of those moments, across the globe, from the dusty streets of Gaza to the shattered towns of Ukraine, to regions gripped by decades of tension. A word has emerged from the shadows. Ceasefire, a pause, a fragile, uncertain, dangerous, but necessary pause, and as the world holds its breath, the question remains, can silence truly defeat war for weeks, months, even years? Headlines have been carved in blood, explosions rocking neighborhoods, families torn apart, nations divided, the world standing at the edge, wondering how far the descent will go. But amid the rubble, beneath the smoke, another battle rages. The battle for peace. It is a quieter war, fought not with bullets, but with words, not with bombs, but with fragile negotiations, handshakes marred by distrust, meetings behind closed doors, and now, whispers grow louder, a ceasefire, temporary maybe, impermanent likely, but every ceasefire is more than just a political agreement. It's a statement, a message to the world, that even after the loudest storm, silence still has power. It's easy in times like these to feel hopeless, to believe that violence is inevitable, to think that the human heart has forgotten how to seek peace. But look closer. Every ceasefire, no matter how brief, is proof that even in the darkest corners of our world, humanity is still searching for light. Because choosing peace is not the easy road. It demands strength. It demands patience. It demands the courage to lay down arms, even when the wounds still bleed. As ceasefire agreements spark hope in war zones, the world watches. Every news anchor, every global leader, every family praying for safety holds their breath, because ceasefires, they are as delicate as glass. They can shatter with a single bullet, a single lie, a single moment of weakness. But they also carry the seeds of something far greater, the possibility of true, lasting peace. And that possibility, that's what keeps humanity fighting for more than just survival. In your life, you may not be standing on a battlefield, but maybe you've felt at war, war with your doubts, war with your past, war with the voices telling you peace is impossible. But just like nations in conflict, you too can choose your own ceasefire, a pause from self-destruction, a moment to breathe, a decision to silence the noise and listen to your inner strength. Because peace begins within. Today, the world stands at a crossroads. Ceasefires are being signed, but can they hold? Can humanity hold its fragile grasp on hope? The battle is far from over, but in the silence between the storms, in the moments when the guns fall quiet, there lies the truth that peace, though fragile, is always possible. Stay with me, because in the next moments we'll explore the true cost of peace, the sacrifices, the doubts, and the strength it takes to lay down the weapons and choose hope. They say peace is priceless, but those who have lived through war know better. Peace has a price, and it is paid in scars, in sleepless nights, in empty chairs at dinner tables, in the haunting echoes of explosions that linger. Long after the battlefield falls silent, when we speak of ceasefire, it sounds simple, an agreement, a handshake, a few signatures on a piece of paper. But behind every ceasefire lies a cemetery of broken dreams, a mountain of grief and the heavy, often invisible, cost of choosing peace. Today, ceasefires are being declared. World leaders step in front of cameras. They speak of hope. They promise a pause. The world listens cautiously, but ask the families who have buried their loved ones. Ask the children who learned to run toward bomb shelters before they learned to read. Ask the soldiers whose eyes have seen the worst of humanity. They will tell you, ceasefires may pause the fighting, but they do not erase the pain. The cost of peace is not paid by politicians alone. It is paid by the ordinary, by the mothers stitching together shattered homes, by the doctors patching wounds they know will leave scars, by the civilians rebuilding lives, brick by fragile brick. Even as uncertainty hangs in the air, look to the streets of Gaza, where rubble replaces playgrounds. To the towns of Ukraine, where homes stand gutted, memories turn to ash, to conflict zones forgotten by the headlines, yet marked by the same unbearable loss. There, you will see, peace, if it comes, will not arrive dressed in victory. It will crawl, battered, bruised, carried on the backs of those strong enough to hope, but still, they hope, because even a broken peace, even an imperfect ceasefire, is better than the endless sound of sirens. Better than the trembling of the earth under falling bombs, better than the screams that never seem to stop. The cost of peace is steep, but the cost of war is infinite. Every ceasefire is born from that brutal equation. How many more lives must be lost before we lay down arms? How much suffering must echo through the generations before we choose a different path? History has taught us this lesson over and over. The trenches of World War I, the beaches of Normandy, the dusty villages of the Middle East, the frozen fields of Eastern Europe, different places, different times, same truth. War may appear to end with treaties, but the wounds, the grief, the empty seats, remain long after, and yet, we choose to hope. Hope that this ceasefire, however fragile, can be more than a temporary pause. Hope that from the ashes, something better can rise. Hope that the next generation might grow up knowing sirens only as distant memories. But hope alone is not enough. Peace is not passive. It demands action, effort, sacrifice. It demands we listen, even to those we disagree with. It demands we rebuild, even when everything feels lost. It demands we believe that despite everything, a better world is possible. And so, ceasefires come, uneasy, unstable, but necessary. They are not the end of the story. They are the fragile first chapter in a book humanity keeps rewriting, a book filled with scars, and yet lined with pages still blank, pages waiting to be filled with courage, with resilience, with hope. And as the world watches ceasefires unfold, remember this: behind every declaration, behind every news headline, there are families holding each other tighter tonight. There are children daring to dream beyond war. There are ordinary people who carry the extraordinary burden of rebuilding peace. It will not be easy, it never is. But peace, however costly, remains the only path forward, the only alternative. Is more destruction, more graves, more generations condemned to fight the same battles. So today, the world stands at a crossroads. Ceasefires flicker like fragile candles in a storm. Some will be extinguished. Others may survive, but the truth remains. Every moment of silence, every step toward peace, no matter how small, matters. Every act of courage to lay down arms matters. Every choice to rebuild instead of destroy matters, because peace, though costly, is always worth the price. Stay with me, because in the next moments we'll journey through the echoes of history to remember the times when ceasefires didn't just pause the fighting. They changed the future forever. If you listen closely, history whispers. It speaks of moments when war raged, when hope seemed lost, when the world was drowning in fire and fear, and yet, even then, ceasefires were born, fragile, temporary, often doubted, but sometimes those ceasefires didn't just pause the fighting, they changed the future. They reminded humanity that peace, though fragile, is never impossible. Let me take you back. It's December 1914. The world is locked in the bloodiest conflict it has ever known. World War I, soldiers frozen in trenches, barbed wire slicing through the earth, bullets carving names into the soil. But then something happens. On Christmas Eve, the guns fall silent. The air, heavy with smoke, now carries a different sound. Carols, enemy soldiers, men who hours before were aiming rifles at one another, climb from the trenches. They meet in the middle of no man's land. No flags, no commanders, just human beings. They share stories. They exchange gifts. They bury the dead together for a brief, impossible moment. The war stops, a ceasefire, born not from politics, but from the simple, undeniable truth we are all human. It wouldn't last. The war would rage on for years. Millions more would fall. But that Christmas truce, it proved something even in the depths of hatred. Compassion survives, and history didn't stop there. Fast forward to 1973. The Yom Kippur War explodes across the Middle East. Tanks roll, jets scream across the sky. Tensions spiral. The threat of global escalation looms. But amidst the chaos, leaders negotiate. A ceasefire is declared. The region remains complicated, fragile, divided. But that ceasefire prevented greater catastrophe. It bought time, it saved lives, or think of the Balkans in the 1990s. A region drowning in conflict, ethnic division, and brutality. The world watched, horrified. Ceasefires came and went, often shattered. But persistence, negotiations, pressure, eventually carved out fragile peace. Today, nations that once bled in war walk a tense, imperfect, but hopeful road toward stability. The echoes of those ceasefires, still heard today, they remind us peace is rarely immediate. It's rarely perfect, but every step, every pause matters. Look even further back to the American Civil War, brother against brother. A nation tearing itself apart, and yet moments of ceasefire emerged to exchange prisoners, to retrieve the fallen, to allow the wounded to heal. Even amid the deepest divisions, humanity's instinct to pause, to care, never fully disappeared. And today, that instinct is alive once more as ceasefires are declared in modern conflicts. Gaza, Ukraine, elsewhere, history leans in, it watches. It whispers, you've been here before, you've seen the darkness, but you've also seen the light, when courage overcomes hatred. And so we remember the Christmas truce of 1914, the uneasy ceasefires of the Middle East, the fragile peace in the Balkans, the temporary pauses amid America's bloodiest war, each one a reminder that no matter how divided, no matter how deep the wounds, the human spirit carries within it an unbreakable desire for peace. But history also teaches us, ceasefires are not magic, they are not easy, and they are never guaranteed to last. They require vigilance, sacrifice, dialogue, forgiveness. And sometimes, even when they break, they plant seeds, seeds of understanding, seeds of change, seeds that may take generations to bloom. But bloom they do. The world has scars, visible and invisible. But scars mean survival. Scars mean healing has begun, and as ceasefires flicker into existence today, we stand once more at the threshold of choice. We can repeat the mistakes of history, or we can learn from its quiet triumphs, because behind every ceasefire lies the same truth. Humanity is capable of more than destruction. We are capable of peace. Stay with me, because in the next moments, we'll journey beyond the headlines into the hearts of those who carry war's scars and discover how peace begins, not on paper, but within people. Not all wars are fought with guns. Not all battlefields lie beneath tattered flags or broken cities. Some wars rage within, invisible, quiet, but no less devastating. Today, as ceasefires are signed in conflict zones, the world watches. We track the movements of armies. We follow the negotiations. We hope the silence will hold. But beneath the surface, another struggle unfolds. The human battlefield, because long after the last shot is fired, Long after the news cameras leave, the scars of war remain, etched deep into the hearts and minds of those who survived, and those scars are often the hardest to heal. Ask the mother holding her child close, flinching at every loud noise. Ask the soldier lying awake at night, reliving moments he can't forget. Ask the doctor who has seen more pain than anyone should endure. Ceasefires, they may pause the fighting, but they cannot erase the memories. They cannot undo the loss. They cannot rebuild what was shattered overnight. This is the human battlefield, a place where peace is more than just an agreement. It's a daily battle against fear, against despair, against the weight of the past. But here's the truth. The human spirit is resilient. Wounded, yes. Weakened sometimes, but broken, never. History is filled with stories of those who rose from the ashes. Communities rebuilt, wounds healed, hope reignited, but it never happens by chance. It happens when ordinary people summon extraordinary courage, the courage to keep going, even when the road ahead feels impossible. The courage to forgive, even when the pain still lingers. The courage to believe that peace begins, not with governments, but with individuals. Look to the streets of post-war cities, children laughing once more. Markets reopening, homes rebuilt, stone by stone, even as memories of destruction haunt the air. This is where real peace begins, not in boardrooms, not on television, but in the quiet moments when people choose hope over hate. But make no mistake, it is a battle fought in silence, in the heart, in the mind, because trauma is real. Grief is heavy, and peace is never perfect, yet, despite it all, humanity rises. We stumble, we fall, but we rise. Look at Rwanda, a nation once torn apart by unspeakable violence. Today, fragile, imperfect, but healing. Look at Berlin, once divided by walls, ideology, and fear. Today, united, a testament to the possibility of reconciliation. Even the most broken places can rebuild. Even the most wounded hearts can heal. It begins with a choice to believe, even when belief feels foolish. To hope, even when hope feels fragile. To forgive, even when forgiveness feels impossible. Because peace isn't just the absence of war. It's the presence of understanding, of compassion, of resilience. And though the scars remain, they are proof of survival, proof that even the deepest wounds can fade. So today, as ceasefires emerge, remember the human battlefield. Remember that true peace requires more than silence. It requires courage, patience, and above all, the unwavering belief that we are more than our divisions. Stay with me, because in the next moments we'll meet the invisible heroes, the quiet warriors of peace, ordinary people doing extraordinary things to ensure that when the guns fall silent, the silence lasts. Not all heroes wear uniforms, not all warriors carry weapons, and not all battles are won on the front lines. In every ceasefire, every fragile moment of peace, there are invisible heroes, people you may never see, names you may never know, but without them, peace could never survive. These heroes don't fight with bullets. They fight with resilience, with hope, with compassion, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Look beyond the headlines, beyond the grand speeches, and you'll find them. The mother who rebuilds her home brick by fragile brick, even as memories of explosions haunt her. The teacher who returns to the classroom, determined to remind the next generation that there's more to life than fear. The doctor who stitches wounds, both visible and hidden, refusing to surrender to despair. The humanitarian who crosses danger zones, carrying food, water, medicine, and hope. These are the invisible heroes of peace. They don't seek recognition. They don't ask for applause. Their reward is the quiet, stubborn belief that a better world is possible. It's easy to overlook them, to focus only on the politicians, the headlines, the ceasefire agreements, but true peace is not built by paper alone. It's built by action, by sacrifice, by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. When no one is watching, Imagine the courage to walk through rubble, determined to rebuild, to speak of unity, after witnessing division, to dream of peace, after living through war. This is not weakness. This is the purest form of strength. History remembers the famous leaders, but it is the invisible heroes, the civilians, the workers, the survivors, who carried peace on their shoulders in the shadows of conflict. They rise after bombs fall. They plant gardens after bullets fly. They teach children to sing after homes crumble. They build shelters, and after silence returns, they remind us that peace is not passive. Peace is work. Peace is sacrifice. Peace is choosing hope. Again and again. Even when the world gives you every reason to surrender, and these heroes, they exist everywhere in Gaza, in Ukraine, in communities shattered by violence, and in places where tension lingers just beneath the surface. They carry their pain, but they refuse to be defined by it. They've seen the worst of humanity, yet they still believe in the best, and in their small, quiet actions, they change the world, one brick, one lesson, one healing word at a time. It is easy to celebrate the grand victories, but it's harder. And more important, to honor the quiet victories, the child who sleeps through the night without fear, the family who returns to a rebuilt home, the community that gathers, not in mourning, but in unity. These moments may seem small, but they are everything, because peace doesn't happen overnight. It grows slowly, patiently, watered by the courage of those invisible heroes who refuse to give up. And maybe you are one of them. Maybe your battle isn't on a battlefield, but in your home, in your heart, in your community. Maybe you've chosen compassion when anger was easier. Maybe you've extended a hand when you could have turned away. Maybe you've rebuilt even when it felt hopeless. That is heroism. So today, as the world whispers of ceasefires, as the fragile silence settles over wounded lands, remember the invisible heroes, the ones rebuilding, the ones healing, the ones choosing hope. When hope feels impossible, their work may not make headlines, but without them, peace cannot survive. Stay with me, because in the next moments, we'll explore the dangerous tightrope the world walks, the fragile line between war and peace, and why every ceasefire is both a gamble and a chance for something greater. Peace is a tightrope, narrow, unsteady, suspended high above the chaos, and every step forward, every ceasefire is a gamble. History has shown us the line between war and peace is thinner than we like to admit. One broken promise, one act of violence, one spark, and the world tumbles back into the abyss. We like to believe peace is permanent. We like to tell ourselves that ceasefires mark the end, but reality is far more fragile. Ceasefires are not guarantees. They are pauses, breaths held, windows of possibility, wide open, but exposed to every storm. Think of Gaza, of Ukraine, of every region balancing between hope and destruction. One moment the guns fall silent, the next, tension cracks like thunder across the sky. Why is peace so fragile? Because peace demands trust, and trust is easily shattered. Wounds run deep. Fear lingers in every corner. Old grievances whisper beneath every agreement. And so, every ceasefire is a balancing act, a negotiation with history, a dance with uncertainty. But does that mean we stop trying? No, because even fragile peace is better than endless war. Even temporary silence gives space for healing. Even uncertain hope is more powerful than despair. The world has seen this tightrope walk before. After the Berlin Wall fell, hope surged, but suspicion remained. Peace took decades to stabilize. In South Africa after apartheid, the world celebrated, but healing from division was a fragile, delicate process, even in Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Agreement marked a turning point, yet peace required constant vigilance, constant dialogue, constant courage, and today we find ourselves, once again, suspended on that same tightrope. Ceasefires declared, communities cautious, the world holding its breath, because the truth is, peace can break, and when it does, it falls fast, it falls hard, and it leaves behind devastation that echoes for generations. But that doesn't mean we fear the fall. It means we step carefully. It means we protect every fragile moment of peace, like it's the most precious treasure we have. Imagine standing on the edge of a great divide. On one side, war; on the other, peace; and between them, a fragile bridge, unstable, weathered, but the only path forward. We can choose to stand still, paralyzed by fear, or we can take the risk. Step by step, believing that peace is worth the uncertainty. The world's ceasefires today, they are that bridge, temporary, yes, unsteady, absolutely, but necessary, more than ever, because every fragile pause buys time, time for dialogue, time for rebuilding, time for remembering that even in chaos, we can choose hope. It is not naive to believe in peace. It is brave. It is not foolish to protect a ceasefire. It is necessary, and though the line between war and peace is fragile, it exists, it is real, and it demands our courage to walk it. The soldiers laying down arms, the leaders choosing negotiation over violence, the civilians daring to dream of a better tomorrow. They are walking that line for all of us. But here's the hardest truth. The tightrope never disappears. The work of peace is never finished. It requires constant balance, constant attention, and constant belief that no matter how fragile, peace is worth protecting. So today, as the world inches forward on this delicate line, let us remember, we have fallen before. We have known the depths of conflict, but we have also known the power of standing tall, of refusing to surrender to fear, of walking toward peace, one uncertain, courageous step at a time. Stay with me, because in the final moments we'll face the greatest question of all. Can humanity truly choose peace, not just for today, but for the future? Peace is not given. It is not granted by treaties alone. It is not guaranteed by ceasefires or promises made beneath flickering lights. Peace is chosen, and choosing peace is the hardest battle of all. Look at the world today. Ceasefires have been declared. Guns fall silent, but the real war rages on. The war within hearts, the war between hope and hate, the war between memory and forgiveness. Every generation faces the same question. Will we choose peace, or will we choose to fall back into the arms of destruction? The answer is never simple, because peace demands sacrifice, it demands courage, it demands the strength to do what feels impossible, to forgive when the wounds are still raw, to rebuild when the ashes have barely cooled, to believe when history whispers it will never last. But here's the truth. Humanity's strongest weapon has never been force, it has never been fear, it has never been violence. Our strongest weapon is hope, the unbreakable belief that tomorrow can be better than today. The quiet, stubborn refusal to accept that war is all we are, and hope is contagious. It spreads from leader to citizen, from family to stranger, from wounded survivor to the next generation. We have seen it before. After the rubble of World War II, nations rebuilt, not just cities, but alliances. After the darkness of apartheid, South Africa chose reconciliation over revenge. After generations of division in Europe, walls crumbled, borders opened, communities united. These were not miracles. They were choices, painful, imperfect, but choices, rooted in the belief that peace is worth fighting for. And today, the world stands at the same crossroads. Ceasefires in Gaza, pauses in Ukraine, talks whispered in shadowed rooms across the globe. Skeptics say it won't last. History warns of failure, but the future is unwritten, and you are part of that future, because choosing peace is not only for leaders, it's not only for governments. It begins with us, in the way we speak, in the way we treat one another, in the way we teach our children, that differences are not reasons for hate, but opportunities for understanding. Peace is chosen every day, in every home rebuilt, in every child given a future beyond war, in every act of courage to believe in something better. But make no mistake, it is not easy. Choosing peace means facing your fears. It means carrying your scars, but refusing to pass on your pain. It means standing on the edge of uncertainty and still daring to hope. This is the hardest battle, but it is the only battle worth winning, because in the end, what defines humanity is not our ability to destroy, but our ability to rise, to heal, to choose unity over division, to protect peace. Even when it trembles like a candle in the storm, so today, as ceasefires hold as fragile as they may be, let us remember, the true victory is not measured in conquered land, but in saved lives. The greatest strength is not in weapons, but in wisdom, and the most powerful choice is to believe that peace, though fragile, is always possible, because history belongs to the brave, and the bravest among us are those who choose peace again and again, no matter how hard, no matter how uncertain. The battle continues, the future awaits, and you are part of the story. Choose peace, and together we rise.